Welcome to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Empowering women like you to amplify your voice, your message, your movement. We believe that if 10,000 new women stepped into high-level leadership platforms, we can transform the industries across the planet. 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. And now your host, Narissa Street.
Hi there. Thanks again for tuning into the podcast. You know what we're here for. My name is Narissa Street. Again, we are here to bring to you the origin stories of some uncommon women in leadership. And I am so excited to have with you today the incomparable Yudelka Tavera. She is amazing. I'm so grateful that she was able to take the time to be with us today. And she is okay with me calling her Yuki. I know her as Yuki, but I always like to have you know my guests by their full name and by their professional name. So, oh my gosh, Yuki, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Yay. Okay.
That message from you. I was like, oh my gosh, Narissa. This is great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You are, when I tell you, you are one of the most genuine, generous people, but also like a take no shit person, which the fact that you've balanced both of those things is absolutely amazing. So outside of that, you're also a badass in your industry. So if you could tell us who you are.
You said origin story, make me sound like a superhero. So I guess I am a lover of art and culture. I mean, if you can call it that, it's art and culture are my passion. And everything that falls under those categories, all the subcategories that fall under that are my life's work. I consider myself a creative soul, a former artist in a way. I'm not really producing art physically as I used to, but I'm a lover of history, exploration, travel. My official title these days is international art dealer and advisor. I was told by my mentor that I should add the word international because I deal with different time zones, different artworks from various time periods and various cultures. So that word is very important in what I do because there's some people that are niche in Asian art or Latin or just contemporary, and I pretty much span all the categories at this time. I mold myself to fit the needs of my various clientele. Lover of history. Travel a lot, and somehow I've been I'm very serendipitously blessed to fall in a happy medium. I was a teacher for 15 years, and now I'm kind of writing my own story in a way. I'm freelance. I do a lot of, event stuff and styling stuff and corporate stuff, and I navigate almost like a ninja. I do a lot of work in the shadows. I don't really advertise a lot of what I do because I have contracts that I sign. I can't really post too many things on Instagram, private collections and people that I work with. But it's very interesting. It's taken me all over the world, and I'm learning so much. And I found kind of a niche for myself in a way, and I'm still defining what that is. And it's much more than just an art dealer because I don't have a gallery or anything like that. But it's just complicated. It's just like when people say that in a relationship, it's complicated. What I do is complicated. So I hope I put a light on a little bit of what I do.
Well, I think what I like about what you've said is that it is complicated. And I think people are in a place where they think that they need to be able to define very distinctly what they do. And when you are, as you said, still writing your story, you find that, and as you said, molding yourself to fit your client's needs, you find that, oh, maybe I don't necessarily fit in a category, and so it's okay to be that kind of person. And I think as the new leaders that are emerging, in the world that we are now, we do have to have some sense of malleability to whatever the context is that we find ourselves in. So I'm grateful that you are this transparent. So since you are doing the international art and where things are right now, tell me, what are you excited about? What's on the list that you can talk about that you're excited about right now?
Well, I'm engaged. So I'm excited about planning my wedding on March 6, 2021. It went from, due to the situation currently,
right,
from a beautiful, huge party of 130 people. It went from plan A to plan B of 75 people. And now we're doing a micro wedding with 30 people because my can't come from the UK, and I have a bunch of international. I don't want to put any family members at risk that are coming from the Caribbean. So we're doing a small live stream thing, and then we're pushing our big reception, our big bash to 2022, to our 1-year anniversary. So that's my personal thing that I'm excited about. I'm planning a big event, which I love doing. If you recall, when we were neighbors, I love planning. I love themed. I love shindig. So it's something that gives me great joy. And it's a little bit in alignment with what I do. It's curating experiences. Now, this is something very personal. It's me reaching a milestone in my life, but I look at it as I'm curating an exhibit. I want everybody, I'm even bringing in certain scents to put in my ceremony space, because I want your sight, your sound. I'm curating the whole thing for those 30 people, and I'm doing a little production for the people to join virtually.
Beautiful. So, oh my gosh.
That's the personal. The business stuff, you asked me what I do, who am I? Somebody's been telling me, wow, I didn't know you did that. I had no idea. Right now I'm so busy with everything that I'm doing that everybody's like, you should have a website that kind of encompasses everything. So I'm hoping that in the next month or so to have at least a basic website to show the different services that I provide, because I'm busy. I'm busy all the time, and maybe my reach can be more broadly known if I have a website. Like, there's so many things that people don't even know that I just get calls for. I do food styling, and I've traveled all over to style lifestyle magazines and things like that. And I don't even have time to create a portfolio, for example. People just call me and they know that we saw your work here from 10, 12 years ago. And I just want to have some kind of online platform where people go, no, this is all that she does. And they can find me, because now it's like I'm obscure.
Well, sometimes the obscurity is the thing that is attractive to people. That we can't pin her down. We're not sure exactly where she is, but we do know whatever we see that's aligned with her name, it's excellence. And so I think. I know that one of my mentors, and it's interesting that you talked about having a mentor. I want to stick a pin and talk about that in a second. One of my mentors was just this, amazing monster of a woman, right? And so when I first met her, I said something about her was like, I know I need to know that person. And I said to her, well, I'm wondering if I could send you an email, that whole little kind of thing that we do when we're trying to, look up. Right. And she's like, I don't do email. She's like, I don't do email. And I said, well, do you have a website or something? And she was like, no, I don't have to. And she was just like, and that was it. That was today's word. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and take I'm going to take your number and get on your calendar. And the level that she works at, she's okay with remaining, at a certain place. And so I know, it was a couple of years ago, things may have changed because of, now we're all digital. But it was the mindset behind being okay with being unreachable and obscure that, I was like, okay, let me take some notes. So what do you feel at this point you are able to contribute to the world of culture in the space that we're in right now?
Gosh, I'm still trying to define it. I think I'm coming full circle. I told you, like around the time where we met, I was still working as an educator between Miami and Dade. I was teaching art history and painting and drawing, and I quickly burned out. I really loved the work, but I felt like I wasn't growing personally and professionally. And then I went to the extreme opposite. I took a museum position for a little while, and now I'm doing more commercial. I'm dealing with like higher end art. I deal with auction houses, and I'm doing like, the higher caliber, stuff. And I'm missing that connection with community and that direct storytelling that has the voice of the people, the voice of issues. Because I look at art and as a form of communication. I look at it as an opportunity to do a service. And just dealing with, very wealthy collectors and, going to fancy parties and doing the Art Basel thing, that only gets you some satisfaction. So now I find that before I was giving all of myself, I had the service boxes all ticked, and I wasn't getting, as a teacher, I wasn't making enough money to sustain myself. I felt very unhappy. I felt like, especially in the arts, as an educator, there was also very thankless. There wasn't as much respect because I wasn't teaching science or art or writing or literature, something that's, tangible, a serious subject. So I had to
core subjects.
Yeah, the core subjects, the hard sciences. So I kind of ran from a place that said, you know what, I just want to establish myself and get a more important position or make a little bit more money where I'm more comfortable and I can play and maybe make some art. And actually, I found myself now desiring, now I want to go back to where I was when we met. Now I'm looking for opportunities to volunteer, to curate, to exhibit, to give back, but on my terms. I don't want to be in a classroom. Again, maybe later when I'm older, when I'm retired, maybe I'll go back to the classroom and teach at the college level or something on my terms. But I think now I'm looking to engage with the exciting things that are happening to help solve some of the issues. I'm looking for my place. Like I have all this stuff that I know from all my jobs and all my things that I've done. And I'm just looking for suggestions of next steps or meeting, the right person, collaborating with beautiful projects that are already there. I mean, Miami has so many nonprofits and so many exciting things happening in museums. Just trying to keep in contact. Like I'm subscribed to most, newsletters. I'm a member of most local museums. I'm just looking to see how I can apply what I'm doing now to that. But I don't know what that is yet.
Hey, this is a great episode, right? Want to carry the insight from our show wherever you go? Visit myjoyisvaluable.com for the best resources that we've gathered that are inspired by expert guests. Find support for your business, tools to organize your life, and more. That's myjoyisvaluable.com.
Well, I do hope you find something because, you do have such a varied range of expertise. But then also what I thought was amazing when I met you was also your very interesting perspective on that expertise. So just as you're talking about, you've been able to remain malleable and flexible to your clients' needs. When we would have conversations, because, I'm also an educator, just the way that you approach things, again, as I said, take no shit, but like really engaged and wanting to make a contribution to whoever happened to sit in front of you. I think that is a really valuable place to be, and especially now when you're able to do it on your own terms. Yeah. So if you could do it on your own terms, because as somebody who's been based in community education, and now I'm teaching people how to teach, right? Online has been a gift to me as an educator, And, and I know it's not the same for everybody, but now I'm doing a thing where I'm helping people, get themselves connected to other people online. And if you could create your classroom curation experience, what would it have to have in it? How would it be ideal for you?
I think what I'm most excited about right now for the future for me, after years of being a visual artist, I stopped making art because I felt like I wasn't getting much out of it personally. Like I had so much to say. So then I was like, I'm going to write. So I did a lot of writing. And now I'm excited because we're kind of in this quarantine space. I did something on Facebook. It was an event. I forgot the name of the theater. It was called Virtual Theater. And I'm missing an immersive experience.
Yes.
I would love my passion. I thought about this the other day. Like I want to find like a venue and find, this show or this screenplay or something. I want to put together an immersive experience. The Rocky Horror Picture Show when you see people
Absolutely.
with their newspaper and all that stuff. And I remember that is just so cool. I think people are thirsty to do something like that, but in a safe way. So imagine if, we're blessed with beautiful weather most of the year. If when it's not like insanely hot, we have a beautiful, like a Shakespeare in the Park or something to bring people together apart where they're partaking in one thing. But I think there's something so magical about performance, at least to me.
Yep, me too.
That once it happens, it's done.
It's done.
If you miss, the exhibition or whatever, you can look it up. You can find, you visit in the studio, but no two performances are alike. And I think that creating an experience like that is something I'm playing with. There's one performance called, I saw it in Massachusetts. It was called The Old Man and the Old Moon. And it was the most fabulous thing I had ever encountered. And I grew up in New York, going to a lot of plays, a lot of shows, and I was an art kid. But the way this was put together, I would love to do something like that here.
There are tons of ways that could happen. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation, during the interview. There's tons of ways that can happen. And I've been studying immersive work for the past 4 years because of my love of transformational work, right? And so knowing that with everything that's going on and with everything that's going on with people's imaginations, being able to drop somebody into an experience allows me to move them in a way that I wouldn't with just the book, with just, my writing, with just other things like that. So immersive work, there's a lot of it that's happening in Florida. I know the theater that you're talking about, it's Juggernaut. And they have great work, but there is a lot more immersive and interactive work that's happening now. So I look forward to you being able to find that. But I would say this for you, if this is something that we really want to do, start the outline. So there's I feel like I don't remember. I feel like you skirted around film a bit, or did you?
I have a little bit.
Okay. So the first thing then I would say is do the outline of the story that you want to take the audience through. And then, and I'll send the information to you. Start to think of a storyboard. And I know you work with storyboards and mood boards and things like that, but start to think of a storyboard. And I'm happy to, make some connections for you with that, because I would love to see an immersive experience that you do. I would love to see it.
To me, that's like a dream project. Like I'm going to put a pin on it. I am so busy.
Oh, that's right. We did just we did just discuss it, and we're moving towards the Basel. For whoever listens to this at whatever time you listen to it, we are in the midst of high season in South Florida. And so I'm grateful that Yuki is able to take some time to chat. But yeah, we're in the Basel, not Basel, but still art's going on. So what do you find you now are able to, without giving away too much, but what do you find that you now are able to do with art no longer being, us going to galleries?
What we're able to do, I think it's put a lot of us in a bit of a corner. Like the younger contemporary artists have never had a problem. They've had to they don't have gallery representation. If they're not in a museum and they're not in one of the world's biggest galleries, I mean, artists they're the trend makers. I mean, we made Instagram happen, we've been using all these avenues for years, but now it's come again full circle. All these, the art world, the tastemakers of the art world are being dragged, kicking and screaming. Okay, all these old collectors, all these gallerists have been institutions for years and years. They're being dragged kicking and screaming into the new century, and they have Instagram accounts now, and they're doing virtual Zoom and all that. These are people that can't tell the difference sometimes between an email and a text message. Like, it's forcing this, because the art world is kind of an old world. All the upper echelon blue masterworks, they're this old, almost old money. And they're, like you said, I don't have an email. I don't need it.
Right.
Like it comes to me. You need me, you'll come to me on my terms. And the art world was like that for a long time. But now, it's still a money-making machine. Galleries still have to sell, to keep their New York galleries. There still needs to be sales, and sales are very dependent on this face-to-face. How do you translate how to feel in front of a painting if I can't get you to stand in front of it? So how do you explain to someone what a pinch feels like in a Zoom call? Like what level of pain? You can't do that. And art, thing that sells art is, one, I'm selling you myself the way I explain it. I make you fall in love with me. I'll bring you. I'll tell a new client. I'll say, "Oh, I see you're in town. Let's get together. We have a little something." I curate the day for them. I'll bring them around to galleries I like, bring them to different fairs, drive them around. We have a great time, like good old friends. And I just talk about what I love. I say, "Look at this. This is how it makes me feel. Now, you can agree or disagree. Let's have a conversation." But it's very important to put someone in front of art. So now we are scrambling to try to create something. And I think there was a little bit of art world fatigue, virtual fatigue, at least for me. I mean, looking at all the art fair stuff online, I mean, my eyes are fried, honestly. But walking through a fair, you can just greet someone and see, and then the air. How do you fill the air and the space between piece and sculpture? I miss the relationships between, this and this.
Yes.
They're counterposed physically.
The negative space.
So now they're doing all these, they're taking a tip from real estate world and doing all these matters and all these things. But then it's very sterile. Then it's very like clinical and white walls. And have the air, the laughter, and you don't see the buzz. Like if you're looking at something digitally, you don't see that one piece that's making everybody go, oh. Have you been in a fair and there's tons of beautiful things and everybody's crowded around this tiny little object? And just the crowd alone, you're like, I got to go over there because we're looking at this thing. And it's like, it must be good. I have to go see it. It's like the Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa's tiny when you see it. It has this huge crowd around it. That room is filled with fantastic stuff. But everybody's told Mona Lisa is the most famous. You have to see that. And it's literally this big.
Yeah.
So the art world is kind of scrambling to do that. We're trying our best to create these immersive experiences virtually. And it's... It's interesting.
I love that problem. And I think that's a problem. That's a good thing to have, because especially in the world that I'm coming from, we have been tackling how to bring an experience to somebody who's never had it, right? So how to get them to feel, to empathize with what's going on. Because what you're talking about there is that sense of felt experience and shared experience, right? So it's that shared experience and that desire to be a part of that experience that makes me move to the paperclip or whatever, or the Mona Lisa or whatever it is. And the energy generated from that, people don't realize, is empathy. It's this sense that I'm now connected with you. I'm now belonging to you. There's something there that we can both share together, and so that sense of, and I think at some point, as you're talking about with the old money and the clinicalness, I think what we're actually seeing is the veneer of the art world coming off, so that we can see actually what's been under it. It's been the separation anyway.
It's forcing transparency a little bit, even with pricing. It was just like, why is this painting worth this? Like, what? Now people are learning and understanding a little bit more, and it's becoming more human, more accessible.
Yeah.
Everyone, because even museums have, programs, and of course anybody can pay $10 to go into any museum. But for the most part, and I talked about this at a gallery talk during our Basel a couple of years ago, that the average person, they can go into a museum anytime they want. They pay their money just like anybody else, but they feel like those are not necessarily safe spaces for them, especially if you are a kid from inner city who doesn't have an example. Like, why would you suddenly go into a museum if your parents have never been to a museum or don't talk about it? Like, why? What am I going to do there? I'm going to look at a bunch of pictures. I can draw my own pictures. What does this dot on one big canvas mean? Oh, no, I don't care. My mom says I have to get good grades. So typically, as we're talking about, safe spaces and people that look like us, there's not a lot of women and there's not a lot of minorities, people of color. Now it's changing out in bigger institutions, but I think that's something that matters. I think once that this virtual world reaches everybody, they'll be more comfortable. They're like, oh, something online. I was at a collector's home last week, and they have a big Nick Cave sound suit right in the living room. And there was a shipper that came in, because I was there to make sure that they handled a work of art correctly to ship to Hong Kong. And the young man that was there, he had his gloves on and everything, and he turned and he said, "Excuse me, what's that?" And he's an art handler or a shipper, but you can tell that he just got the job and he's new and he usually, those guys, they don't talk to me. They just see me as the person that signs the papers, and they're in and they're out. His boss was there and he was like, "Okay, let's grab the crate like this." But this young black guy was like, "Excuse me," he took the time and he engaged me. He said, "What is this?" Mm-hmm. And I was taken aback. I was like, wow, he asked. And I told him, and he was like, psh. And hopefully, he went home and Googled Nick Cave and saw, hey, Nick Cave looks like me. He's in, like, I thought that was very, very powerful moment. And I've never had that before. So people, it's, I think art is reaching more people.
Yeah. And to think the other thing also is that, I think there's also the acknowledgement that the story behind the work is just as important as the work, right? So Nick Cave's sound suits, when you said it, I was like, yes, because I love his work and I love the story behind the sound suit. And the fact that a young black man whose story might match where the sound suit comes from.
Exactly.
Had the experience, just had like a striking, but he was, of course, also in the room with it, right? And so it had the energetic, and I think that's the other thing that I think working in the way that you do, having the personality that you do as well, allowing him to connect with it. To be very frank, I don't know that he would have asked anyone other than you. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I think people need to also understand that part of what we're all craving with this digital thing is just the human connection. Your passion for the work, your energy. You know, I'm glad people are going to be able to see you on the web when we post this. But being in person with you, as I said, genuine, generous, take no shit. Right. And so I think
I don't have time to do it, honestly. I don't have time for that. I have so much to do. I'm like, okay, hurry up. Like,
right. But that energy, I think, also is a safe space. Right.
Yeah.
And so you being able to, because think about it, had anyone else been in the room, he wouldn't have asked. He would have been like, that's interesting. And then just kept moving. But, you know, like not knowing, he wouldn't have been able to make the connection with the name, which then, of course, gives him someplace to start, right? A launching point. But I really believe that connection came because of you and your energy in the room with it. So,
thank you.
Well, okay. So here's the thought, though. With that kind of energy, have you found that there are rooms you can't get in?
Okay. Yes, all the time.
Okay.
I do believe that I am currently doing what I'm doing because of the abundance of no's, the abundance of closed doors and stuck windows. By stuck windows, I mean, like, yeah, totally. Like, let's do this. And then you're like, hi, hello. You remember, we spoke, we emailed.
Right.
You're like, but the window doesn't open, and they're on the other side, like,
right.
Next time, next year, never. And I think a lot of it has to do with, not being able to put myself in a box. I'm capable of doing many things, but when I've gone or attempted to go the traditional route, let's say, a museum job, a very nice museum job as a director of education or curator of this, they see my resume and they're like, wow, let's get this person in here. And then they're like, we don't know. We don't know what to do with you. Like, there's just so much. They either think they have to pay me too much, or they just don't see how I fit. And then we're not even talking about what race and culture have to do with it. Without going into much detail, I have my hair out natural just for you. But a lot of time, especially during Art Basel, I find that I walk right into my hairdresser and I say, straighten it out, because I don't even want that to be a topic of discussion.
You don't have time. You don't have time for that.
And I, as a mixed race Latino person, I am able to blur the line between my race and my identity. And I look in the mirror depending on what I'm doing that day, and I make a decision. Is it going to benefit me to be myself, or do I make myself more palatable? With me specifically, it's via whether or not I'm going to straighten my hair directly. Like, it's straight up that way. So during Art Basel week, it is not even an option. I straighten my hair for the week.
Wow.
No, like, it's not even a thing.
Yeah.
So I can talk about this all day. And I've done social experiments with myself where I've put myself in situations professionally and on dates back when I was dating, playing with the idea of how I'm perceived in the world. And I think that also has a lot to do with where I'm at. Not only is she an outlier, but she's racially ambiguous. She doesn't have a professional background. there's too many factors at play. So yeah.
That's an amazing space to be in. And I think a lot of people struggle, people who are able to blur lines, a lot of people struggle with, is this the right thing to do? And I think where you seem to be, which is like, look, I got to get some stuff done. So this is the decision that I need to make at this point. I'm glad that you were able to speak about that, because people need to be okay with whatever you need to do in order to get your stuff done. Mm-hmm. You know, and leaders understand that part of that malleability that we talked about in the beginning is understanding who your audience is and what they're capable of hearing. And if your message is going to be disrupted by what's in front of them, mm-hmm. then let me drop that barrier for you. And then maybe at another time we can address some other things. But, you know, with transactions like that and things like that, you know,
I just eliminate the conversation, and I go to what I'm supposed to do.
What you're there to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say, thinking about that, what would you say is most misunderstood about your industry?
My industry? Well, I can only speak for myself.
All right. So what's most misunderstood about you?
Myself in this industry.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess it's that the walls have ears. The art is very clicky, very tight. And most people are very knowledgeable. And usually, you know, what we see during Art Basel especially is people wanting to be and take pictures in front of art and just be to be seen. But once all the noise and the clutter goes away, there is a lot of work happening. There's a lot of substance. There is a lot of depth. And we don't necessarily have to go to the fancy galleries or pay tickets or be at the hot new thing to necessarily benefit from a good cultural program or be changed. Like you mentioned the word transformation. You don't need to go very far to be transformed. I mean, art to me is the evidence that we were here. So I look out my window and I see all the different houses and how they're constructed and how people landscape their homes. That's visual culture. And then a photographer can come and photograph that, and in 100 years, they'll say, wow, that's how South Florida used to look before it got all flooded out. Okay, so, and then that will be art. That will be photography from 2020. Yeah. So I just think that we need to give society a little bit more credit. I myself have to correct myself because, you know, most times I thrive in doing what I do because I'm an expert in my field. And I come in when I speak about a certain piece or a certain period of art or whatever it is, and I speak with authority. I know my subject very well. But the average person, once you find that connection in the middle and you explain it to them on their terms, like a person that says, oh, art is stupid, but they're driving, you know, they have all the Apple products, they're driving a Tesla, right, latest whatever. Right. And, you know, it's making the connection of, you realize that you think that, you know, your son studying art in high school or college is silly, but everything that you do, you make your money, you can be a world-class surgeon. All your choices are dictated by someone like me, a creative little art kid that said, this is the hotness. You drive by and you see a billboard of something and you desire it. You must have it. And you're paying hundreds and thousands of dollars to purchase something that was made by an art kid. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's teaching that lesson.
So what would you say to an art kid who is still struggling with their value?
the lesson that I learned was that you can't just be an art kid. You need to have a lot of things in your tool belt. Back when I was getting an undergrad degree, they said, oh yeah, learn to paint, learn to draw. You can, here you are, you're an artist. And then they pushed you out with your bachelor's degree, and then you're out there like, it's cold, it's raining. Why not? I don't even have an umbrella, not a raincoat. I got this paper here. What am I going to do? So I would say to all the art kids, one, take an accounting course, figure out your money, figure out, start an LLC, take some business classes, whatever it is. If you like to bake, if you like to make drawings, you need to figure out a way to organize yourself. So you need to be an enterprise, like versus another job where you're like, I'm going to be an X-ray tech. If you're good at it, you'll get a job doing specifically that thing. But art is so many things. You can end up doing advertising. I mean, you can be working in an engineering company, designing components. I mean, it could be a variety of things, but you need to know your worth based on, recognize the talent and what it is that you provide, and then figure out a way, the business hat of how am I going to market? How do I convince others that they need what it is that I'm doing in a way that makes sense for me? So business classes, because I learned everything I learned the hard way without any business classes.
Wow. Well, I would love to thank you for your time. I have just a couple more questions for you, and then we can wrap. So the question then is, what would you have liked to learn? Because you said that you learned it all the hard way. What would have been the first thing that you needed to learn as you left art school? What was the first thing that you think you needed to learn?
Like degree in hand.
Yep.
I guess how to go out there and really market myself. Like it was a different time then. So back then people were like still calling, and it was a time where it was okay for you to show up at a place and just give them your resume, like physically. Wow. And you could send an email, but it was just starting to be the way to go. Like people were still mailing resumes and calling, and there weren't any applications on websites or anything like that. So I guess I wished I would have been a little bit more pedal to the metal, a little bit more feet on the ground. Who knows? I probably would have had a solid career as an artist had I marketed my own art. Had I gone to New York with a portfolio in hand and walked in to all the places, which is what people did back then. But for some reason, I never did it. So,
because you're doing this, because you needed to do this. That's why.
We're our own worst critics. At the time, I didn't think my work was any good. So I said, someday I'm going to finish this portfolio and it's going to be great. And then I'm going to do what everybody does. I'm going to go to all the galleries and email. But it just never happened. I was always kind of fearful of that rejection. So I kind of fell into teaching, and I was comfortable with that. And I did it curating on small level. But I never gave it that go of pushing myself as an artist. So, with an art degree, everybody should have at least give it a go. And I think that I never did that. So that's the one that I would change, to just out of curiosity to see how my work would be really received. But
interesting. Interesting. Well, we can't wait to see where your work is, and we can't wait to interact with the amazing things. And I do know that you are working on a project right now with your significant other, soon-to-be husband. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I started a podcast because, like I said, I am a creative person. I need to be making stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be paintings and drawings. So I have a lot to say about everything. So I noticed that it was taking us, 5 hours to drink a bottle of wine and watch a single movie. And I'm like, wow, we have a lot to say. Pause. And we would make, these conversations about history and politics based on, a comment that was made in a movie. And we're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm like, we need to start recording this, because we're both so well read and we both have seen so many things. I'm like, I think that we're pretty funny. We have good dynamic and we have a lot of interesting things to say.
You guys are certainly cute. You guys are certainly cute. How did you meet?
We met on an app that is pretty obscure and not really used in South Florida, which is why we matched right away. So that app is called Happn, Happn. I don't even know if it's still a thing.
Wow, okay.
I was using it in New York, and it was very active in New York. I was going on like 2 dates a day. Like, yeah, Happn. It was like a combo between Tinder and Match. Like it was like location based and all this stuff. So then when I moved back down, I was like that, right? So I told all my girlfriends as soon as I moved down, you gotta download this app. And they're like, girl, what are you talking about? This app sucks. So my significant other, he was on a red-eye flight from San Francisco back. And apparently the West Coast was really using this app also. And he was like, I'm going to download it. And he was on all the apps, and we happened to match because he works downtown Fort Lauderdale, and that's where like the art museum is. So one of my days I was at the art museum and I matched with this guy, and the rest is history. And there wasn't anybody else on there. It was just
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay. So what's it called? What's the podcast called?
It's called The Way, W.A.Y, Wilmer and Yuki. It's an acronym.
That's so cute.
It was going to be called Right Brain, Left Brain because he's in the sciences and I'm in the arts. And there's so many things called that. So we had to kind of pull it to be something more unique. We talk a lot about parenting, modern family. He was formerly married. He has a beautiful daughter, Zoe, age 9, my step baby. And we do a lot of cool things. Like we just like make stuff up. Like we do a lot of science experiments. Like for example, we have a regular Brita in the fridge and we have a filter that's in the fridge door. And I noticed, I'm like, this water tastes like shit. Like, why? Is there something wrong? He's like, no, the filters are new. I said, we're going to make a little experiment. So we like different brands of water, and we're going to have a little water debate and see which water is better and why water tastes bad to me and good to him. And so that's one of the things. And I miss curating and traveling. And so we're playing with different recipes. We make cocktails. We have a lot of little fun projects.
Nice.
We talk about movies. We were just planning on sharing with what's giving us joy right now, because I know some people really need the joy, and there aren't a lot of options, but we're doing a pretty good job here at home, entertaining ourselves and planning outings and safe outings, walks and I don't know, sharing what works for us and our family.
That's great. Love it. Well, we are excited to be able to support The Way. So when this is posted, we'll make sure to have that information as well. So it is The Way, the W-A-Y, Wilmer and Yuki. Is it Wilmer or Vilmer?
Wilmer, W-I.
It is Wilmer. Okay. So I know sometimes there's a W that's said like a V and other languages. So, okay. So Wilmer and Yuki. Okay. Lovely. It has been a delight and a joy. Are there any parting words of wisdom that you have for the folks who are subscribed and listening?
I guess keep looking for things. Like, how you wake up every morning and you see your inbox, or you go to Facebook or whatever your social media choice is. I try to change it up. If I have an idea that pops in my head, roller skates, roller skate park. I just Google random things and I find all types of really rewarding, quirky short films online and art things, and I don't know, just keep looking for different things. That's my thing.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Find us at 10,000women10,000stages.com.